Boom! Welcome. I'm Chris Grimes. Watch Your Story. This is the Good Listening To show, stories of distinction and genius, where my guests come to a clearing or serious happy place of their choosing to all share with us their stories of distinction and genius. I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to welcome to a Founder Story Good Books hybrid series strand episode of the show, Maria Franzoni, who has the most gorgeous name from the get-go. I know you're first generation British Italian, but just talk us through the Franzoni derivation, and I'll just blow a tiny bit more of happy smoke. You're a speaker, advocate and coach, and a speaking industry thought leader. You're credited with giving incredible value and slap your head insights. And I know that you've cut your chops, Maria, earning your stripes as a former industry leader of a speaker bureau. You were an agent. And I love the fact that you had 25 years, not to age us both, but 2.5 decades of booking speakers worldwide. You've even helped put a man on the stage because you've had Neil Armstrong back in the day. So not only the moon, but also on the stage that you curated. So Bob Geldof, Richard Branson, just to sort of name drop but a few. Welcome to the Good Listening To show, Maria Franzoni.
Thank you so much, Chris. I feel I should have a T-shirt with something on it too. So those who are watching can see you've got a lovely, I need a T-shirt.
And I've been told I should have a cap, a baseball cap that says what you need is a damn good listening to.
Actually, that's good. I like that.
This is what this show is all about. So I know that what's really powerful and profound about what you do is the speaker advocacy, because you've turned your silky skills of all that experience into now your world-renowned book, which is called The Bookability Formula. So I'm just blowing happy smoke. There's a very exciting bit at the end called Show Us Your QR Code, Please, where we're going to point people to exactly where we can go and find your book and go and buy it too. So, yes, how's morale and what's your story of the day, first of all, Maria?
Oh, my story of the day. Morale is good. My story of the day is that if you are trying to sell your house, get the stages in because it makes such a difference. And I'm probably going to share a bit more about that on LinkedIn at some point. We've been trying to sell for a while, and I read the book. I read a fantastic book by a stager and applied all of her knowledge. And then I thought, we still didn't sell the house. So I thought, I'm going to bring her team in. Brought the team in, transformed the house. Every viewing has gone brilliantly. So I suppose moral of the story is, read the book, but then bring in the expert, because it's still not enough. And I shall share some fantastic pictures of my staging and all the incredible cushions I've now got.
Well, let's buff up the cushions and get you on the open road. And it's not a phrase I'm familiar with, get the stagers in. Will you just unpack that slightly?
Yeah. So when you go and visit, I don't know if you have ever viewed a brand new home. What happens is with these new homes, people bring expert stagers to furnish and do the interior decorating, if you like, which involves a lot of throws, bedspreads, cushions, lovely chairs, lots of colour, paintings, accessories. So bringing the stagers in was bringing them in to accessorize and change. And I thought our house looked really good. And then when they did all this, it was like, wow. And people were saying, this looks like a hotel, So very impressed with that. So yeah, that's my story of the day. Bring the stagers in if you are trying to sell your house. And if you want a recommendation, I'll let you know who they are.
Please do. And what a wonderful bit of happy smoke to blow at them too. You also need to get the waft of cooked bread, I gather, wafting in through your kitchen as well, don't you, with baked bread?
That's so funny and so timely. So we live in the middle of the countryside, surrounded by fields, and we had a viewing planned for yesterday afternoon, which took place. And the day before, there's a changeover. There's cattle in the field for a few months, and then they change over and they prepare to put corn. And what they do in preparation is they spread muck.
Yeah, right? Silage, I think you'll find.
Yeah. So there wasn't an aroma of cooked bread or fresh coffee. There was an aroma of,
shall we say, yes, we're all thinking it. Let's all say it.
As a friend of mine used to say, sugar, honey, iced tea.
Yes, I love that. Sugar honey iced tea. Love
12-year-old. Isn't that brilliant? Brilliant a way of saying it. Sugar honey iced tea. Yeah, that's
how
what it felt
wonderful.
like. They still loved it, and they're coming back on. Anyway, let's stop talking house.
Yeah, and I heard another brilliant way using an acronym, which was when you're listening to someone you don't quite understand, you just need to go, there we are then, which is a subtle way, acronym, a bit like see you next Tuesday. There we are then is a subtle way of going, so there we are then.
Oh,
Anyway,
I like that. I'm learning so much, Chris. Thank you. I'm writing that one down.
and what a good segue into learning so much, because I'm delighted to have you here to get on the open road of what the bookability formula is all about. You poise some really wonderful questions. Do you want to get booked more often as a speaker? And do you want higher fees? Now, that's a brilliant no-brainer couple of questions there. But I know that as we'll get on to, the bookability formula is really following a 5-point plan. Again, this is for you to unpack, but it gets you to understand your market, decide what your differentiating factor is as a speaker, develop your speech, and then, of course, get representation ultimately as well. So there's lots to talk about and great expertise to be unpacked. So with your permission, I'm going to get you on the open road of the show. If you've not seen this show before, where have you been? We're about 280 monkeys in. And this is the show in which I invite movers, makers, shakers, mavericks, influencers, and also personal heroes into a clearing or serious happy place of my guests' choosing. There's going to be a clearing, a tree, a lovely juicy storytelling exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's going to be some alchemy, some gold, a couple of random squirrels, a cheeky bit of Shakespeare, a golden baton, and a cake. So it's absolutely all to play for. So Maria Franzoni, author of the Bookability Formula, what is a clearing for you? Where do you go to get clutter-free, inspirational, and able to think?
I have two, but I'm going to share my favorite one because one of them is in solitude and one is in company. I'm going to go with the company one. And it's usually, in fact, I do this every day, actually. It's walking with my husband with our 2 dogs. And at the moment, we live in the middle of the countryside. So our walks are beautiful in the countryside. They're on amazing, huge common with lots of sand on it, actually, which is lovely, especially when it's raining. And the dogs just love it. And we love it, especially on a sunny day. The views are just incredible. And you're out in nature. It's so lovely. When we move, or when I hope to move, we'll be on a beach walking with the dogs, and then hopefully heading to a pub lunch afterwards. So I tend not to do a pub lunch at the moment because I usually come back and do some work. But that's the dream, is to work mornings, walk the dogs, pub lunches, and a little snooze in the afternoon.
That sounds like my perfect day. Everyone's going, yes, please, where are we moving? And let's do it fast. You did mention as we joined that your husband is, as you enigmatically put, on dog barking duty today.
Yes, he is. Yes, we have a dog. One of them has a bit of dementia. And so every now and then he likes to just start barking randomly. We don't understand what he's saying. He speaks dog. But then, of course, then he starts the other one off. So it becomes a lovely, so he has to sort of nip it in the bud quickly. Otherwise, that's all we're going to hear.
It's not so much who let the dogs out, it's who set the dogs off. And then your husband, I'm assuming you're not talking about your husband who's barking.
No. He's very good at calming the dog.
Just in terms of geography, because I'm about to arrive with a tree in your wonderful clearing. You mentioned there was a sort of more private clearing as well. Where would that be?
Yeah, I don't think you want to plant a tree in my private clearing, if you don't mind, because I love a hot bath with candles, with lovely scented oils, and a glass, depending on what time of day, either a glass of vino or a cup of tea, because I'll have a bath at any time of day. I love soaking in a hot bath, which is probably not great, is it, in terms of water usage? But I do stay there a long time and I really enjoy it. So yeah, I don't want any trees in my bath, please.
Fine. So I have comically arrived. There was a comedian called Charlie Higson whose favorite place was the bath, and he agreed that I could arrive with a shrubbery into his bathroom, but I won't do that. My daughters would be in the shower, so of course I'm not about to go into a daughter's shower with a tree either. So we'll be outside in the sort of sandscape, which is getting more sandy, is what I'm gathering.
Yes.
Do you mind if we go for a bit of a 3 words geography? Whereabouts in the country are we in the UK?
Yes, I'm actually in Surrey. In the middle of the countryside in Surrey, in a little village. So let's leave it at that.
So we don't really want to come around your house with a shrubbery.
No.
And are you moving to similar geography? It's just
moving to Dorset, to the seaside.
fine. Gosh, you're beginning to further live the dream, which is
Yes,
wonderful.
absolutely.
So where do you want your tree? Outside your front door in Surrey or in Dorset, please?
Let's have it here now, because I think at the moment, yes, here. Let's have it here on the common.
So I'm going to plant a tree, which is a bit deliberately waiting for Godot-esque because of my hecting background. It's a bit existential, a bit Samuel Becketty. And I'm going to shake your tree to see which storytelling apples fall out. How'd you like these apples? To borrow a bit of an Al Pacino line there. And this is where you've been kind enough, now you've identified where your clearing or clearings are, to have thought about 4 things that have shaped you, 3 things that inspire you, 2 things that never fail to grab your attention, and that's where I'll talk about squirrels borrowed from the film Up. And then the 1 is a quirky or unusual fact about you, Maria Franzoni, we couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us. It's not a memory test. I'll curate you through it. So over to you to shake the canopy of your tree as you see fit.
Okay, so the 4 things that have shaped me, yes?
Yes.
So you mentioned one earlier, in the fact that I'm first generation British. So I was actually born here. My parents met in the UK. They come from 2 different parts of Italy. And if you know Italy, every area of Italy has its own dialect. So because they were from 2 different areas, they had to speak to each other in Italian and not in dialect, which meant I grew up hearing Italian. In fact, when I was quite young, my parents decided to go back to Italy to have some support. So my first language was Italian. And they came back to the UK because, 1, they didn't get the support they thought they were going to get, but secondly, life was a lot tougher than it was back in those days. It was a lot easier here to make a living and to progress and have a good future. So being brought up where, you know, I've got a different culture at home and a different language at home, and family who could not guide me through the education system, could not guide me through how to grow up in the UK, I didn't realize how much it had shaped me, but it really, really did shape me. That was 1. Are my answers too long, or am I okay? Just cut me off.
Because I'd like to ask you a qualifying question about that. So it sounds very Romeo and Juliet, a bit Capulet, Montague, meeting from different dialect parts. You know, the dark side of the tracks, the right side of the tracks. Quite Romeo. It's quite evocative of the romance of Italy is how it's making me think. And what was their line of, what does your mum or dad do?
Well, my father, they both came over for work because there wasn't any work in Italy. My father came over and he was a butler. And on the cook's day off, he was the cook. So he could cook, and, you know, so that was quite cool. My mother was working in a house as a housemaid, a chambermaid cleaning the house. And they met because there was an Italian community. They happened to be both working in houses, private houses in the same area. And the only time they had off was Sunday afternoons, and all the Italians got together on a Sunday afternoon. Mum and Dad met there through the group. For my dad, it was love at first sight. My dad's a huge romantic. My mother took a lot of convincing, but she came round, thank goodness, otherwise I wouldn't be here.
And is it just you, or do you have siblings as well, Maria?
I have a younger sister.
Ah.
Who's now moved to Portugal to be in the sunshine. So younger sister who's married and in Portugal now.
And may I ask, are your parents still with us?
They are. We celebrated my father's 92nd birthday last week, and my mother hopefully will be celebrating her 90th this autumn.
Well, many, many congratulations to all of you. And in fact, I'll wibble on about something called Legacy Life Reflections at the very end as well. Wonderful. So that's the first bit of shapage. What's your shapage number 2, please? I also have a bell. Shapage number 2, please.
Oh gosh, I want a bell. I want a bell and a T-shirt now. I don't know. I feel FOMO. So again, it's my parents, and it was their work ethic and their approach. They never ever asked for help in terms of financial help. They always had a job. They always had a way of making money, and they put that into me as well. They made me incredibly independent. So I have always been financially independent in my life, and I have always had that work ethic, even when I'm working for myself, when I couldn't, this is the first time in my life where I'm saying I'm only going to work mornings and I'm going to take afternoons off. And even then, I don't know if I'll stick to it, because it's just, I love work and I love making money, actually, Chris, if I'm honest about it. So they really instilled that in me. I saw how hard they worked. I saw how important it was for them to, always have a reserve in case something went wrong. And I've lived that way too.
And if I may, it sounds very upstairs, downstairs, but you've all succeeded in getting upstairs using
They've
that.
managed to get upstairs. They did. Yeah, my father, when he retired, was a director of a large wholesale electrical company, so he did very well. My mother stopped working when we were born and looked after us and raised us, and she had part-time jobs then when we were old enough. So she never really pursued a career. She always wanted a career, so she pushed me and my sister to study, to go to find a career, to find something, because that's what she'd always wanted. But in Italy, I don't know if you know, that you pay for school quite early on in your teen years. And she had two brothers. And, Italian mom and dad, they said, well, look, you're going to get married. They need to look after the family. We'll pay for their education. You can go and work in a house as a housemaid, which always galled her because my mother is so intelligent and could have done so many things. So she pushed me and my sister to do as much as we could.
What a lovely thing to say about your mum. She's so intelligent. I love that. Fantastic.
Well, both parents, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get as much from them as I really need. But yeah, no, I had two very, very intelligent parents who both of them did not have the benefit of much education. I mean, my father ended up in an orphanage at one point. So they've had a tough life.
Yes. Which is often the sort of the generation before us have had that type of experience and life path and trajectory.
Yeah.
Shapage number 3 now, please.
Well, I sort of, again, I keep hinting. I didn't realize I'm hinting these things. Having my own business, running my own business. I run my own business now, and I got a taste for it quite early on, actually. So I started working at the age of 20 because I was always sort of a year younger than everybody. Once I finally learnt English, I had to catch up. And then, so I was working at the age of 20. And by the age of 24, I was sort of running a co-founder of a business with my then romantic partner. And that was a good lesson to learn, actually, because when that relationship broke up 6 years later, I then had no business and no relationship. So I had no work. And so I had to start again. And that was quite scary. So I think running my own business then taught me a lot. And it gave me that, actually, I love that freedom of making my own decisions about my destiny, about how I work, what I work, and what I do.
Yeah.
And I've had several businesses since, and now I've been in business since 1998.
Yeah.
I was employed when I started in my first speaker bureau, but with the next speaker bureau, I made sure that I was self-employed.
Yeah.
So from 2002, 2003, I've been self-employed or running my own business.
Very much a sort of control your own destiny, or others will control it for you, as a sort of life imperative and purpose.
Control freak is the word, I think.
I wasn't trying to hint at that,
but it's true. It's true. Yeah. I do like to control the controllables. Definitely control those controllables.
Which is part of what you're offering as advice to speakers as well, because it's all about regaining control in a market that's completely overwhelmed and saturated. And how do you find your differentiating factor? And your unique voice, I know, is part of what you instruct speakers of the world on.
Oh, you're good. Carry on.
Oh, thanks very much. Shapage number 4 now.
Well, this is one I don't talk about very often. I actually mentioned it on LinkedIn for the first time recently and got such a reaction. I thought, I'm going to mention it. I chose not to have children, and it has affected every part of my life, quite interestingly. And it has definitely shaped me. I don't regret it at all, but it affected every relationship, because early on I needed to let my partner know that actually I don't want children. And it's amazing how 99% of men do want children. And what happened was, what I discovered was that many would say, no, I'm cool, that's fine, when actually they didn't mean it, because they thought I would change my mind. They thought that
Yes.
the clock would set in, that it would start ticking and the hormones would take over. And I remember sitting next to somebody on a plane once, and we struck up a conversation. He was talking about how many children he had and this, that, and the other. And he said, "What about you?" I said, "Oh, no, I don't have any. I actually don't want any children." He said to me, and this was quite a long time ago, he said, "I bet you £1 million that by the time you're 40, you will have had children." I don't remember who he was. I didn't take his details, but that £1 million those years ago, that would have been quite useful. So that shaped me there. It also shapes, when you're having conversations with your girlfriends who are your age, they're all talking about children and you can't discuss it. If you express an opinion, you're told you can't have an opinion because you don't understand, because you haven't had children.
Yeah.
It's
What did you think about his advice? That's an interesting thing. Did you like the advice, or were you thinking,
that I'm going to change my mind? No,
Yeah.
I'm really insulted.
I was thinking that because you said that. I wish it sounded like it was positive advice, but it wasn't. It was
I wish I'd remembered them to get his details so I could get the £1 million, is what I'm saying, because he bet.
I see what you mean. Sorry. That was me qualifying the bet. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So I was and actually the most interesting situation. So this is my second and final marriage. I was married young and divorced very young. And when I was married young, I was the highest earner in our relationship. And in those days, they used to do 3 times the high earner and 1 times the lower earner to work out the mortgage.
Yeah.
And we went to see the bank. And the bank said, "Well, we're not prepared to do it this way because you're recently married and you're likely to get pregnant." And again, I thought, how rude, how dare you? And this was a woman saying this to me. And I said, "First of all, you've assumed that we want children, which we don't. Secondly, you've assumed that we can have children, which even we don't know, right? Thirdly, we're married. You've assumed we're having sex." And I said to her, "You've made 3 incredible assumptions." So yeah, that really irritated me again. So you're constantly faced with challenges, but I think the hardest thing as well is being challenged to defend your decision, when I think most people are never challenged when they choose to have children to defend the decision to have children. So I think it's a delicate subject, but that has definitely shaped me.
And it's about addressing gender stereotypes in society, which is of itself worth speaking about, because that's a topic which is often buried somehow. It's a very interesting debate, and interesting that you said it had quite a big reaction when you posted about it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, huge reaction on LinkedIn. And I mean, I feel huge sympathy for anybody who had difficulty having children and hasn't managed to. I do have one regret, because I didn't know until it was too late that you could donate your eggs. Had I known that, I would have helped somebody who didn't have children. And I found out when apparently my eggs were stale by that point. But I would have loved to have helped someone. So that's my one regret.
Beautifully put, very eloquent indeed. Thank you. So that's 4 shapeages. Now we're on to 3 things that inspire you, Maria. We're obviously definitely here to talk about the bookability formula. Rest assured that's coming in with bells, whistles and knobs on. But 3 things that inspire you now.
It's interesting because I've gone very personal with you rather than talking very much about business, isn't it? But hey, you've unleashed some stuff that I have never shared. Anyway,
by design, I'm much more interested in the story behind the story, because the book is a given and it's fantastic, and we are going to talk about that.
So you won't be surprised by the first one that inspires me: a great speech, great speaker, and I love a great speech. Don't like a bad speech, but I really, really enjoy a great speech, and I just relish it, and I just smile ear to ear while I'm watching it, and I just love it. Love. So yeah, you won't be surprised by that.
And when was the last time you saw a good speech?
The last time I saw one where I was smiling ear to ear was actually last year in April. And I know this particular speaker will be speaking again at the same conference this year in April. And I was one of the people who said, "You've got to bring him back." So I'm preparing my smiley chops.
I love that. And also that again is your own stripes as a speaker advocate. What a lucky person for them to have you in their corner, because apparently you've been credited with having you in your corner is like having a speaking superpower.
That's nice. That's really nice. Thank you.
Wonderful. So you love a good speech, and any favorite speeches of old that you always think that's a good speech? I know we've all got the I Have a Dream, and you know, some Shakespeare ones. So any ones that you particularly
Yeah.
default to?
Yeah, let me give you a few that people can look up actually, because they can listen to them and enjoy. So one that everybody, I hope, has watched is Sir Ken Robinson, who I had the pleasure of working with, and his TED Talk, which is just a masterclass in how to deliver a speech. I love humor, by the way. So if somebody's funny, adding to the speech rather than just telling jokes that are irrelevant. So that's one of the reasons I absolutely loved Ken Robinson. So that's one. The other one, who people might not have seen, and sadly, both people have passed because Sir Ken's gone as well, is Dame Stephanie Shirley, who, when I was working with her, we used to call her Steve, because when she founded her tech business, she couldn't be Stephanie. Nobody would take her seriously. So she changed her name to Steve when she wrote dresses. And her speech, again, it's a TED Talk, and it's about why ambitious women have flat heads. I think that's the right title.
Wow.
And it's not about the glass ceiling. It's really interesting. And she breaks all of the rules that a speaker coach will tell you, because it says, you know, the speaker coach will say, don't sit on a stage. And she's sitting on a stage clearly because she needs to. So she's sitting on a stage. She says, don't use cue cards. She's using cue cards. And she is fantastic.
Yes.
A brilliant storyteller.
And it plays into that, be yourself because everyone else is taken. Whatever you need to do to be your best authentic self on stage is obviously the best advice. And if you, as you say, if you need, I like to call them idiot boards or idiot cards. If you need them, just use them. Doesn't make you an idiot, just makes you clear about success.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So those are two of my standout favorites that I love to go back and watch again and again. And I mean, there's many others, but they're two of the greats.
And Sir Ken Robinson had such a mellifluous voice as well. He was just you could just drink him in with the tone that he would have as well.
Yeah.
And was there another gender stereotype where you said that Stephanie wasn't taken seriously until she was called Steve? Was that sort of choice as well?
Yeah. So when she was writing to businesses to try and get work for her company that she set up, she had to change her name to Steve in order for people to read and respond to the letters, which is sad, really.
Ironic how much people need to swim upstream to find the stage and the platform where they can then share their wisdom.
Yeah. I didn't realize we were going to be talking so much about gender. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Well, it's called The Good Listening To. You started it, so I'm just giving you reflective listening. Now we're on to the third inspiration, please.
So a good box set. This is something I'd never done before, binge watched things until 2020. And I think we all started doing that. And one of the programs I binge watched in 2020, I absolutely loved it. And there's a couple I'd like to share that I really thoroughly enjoyed. One was Breaking Bad. What an amazing, and I had the pleasure of going to see Bryan Cranston be interviewed recently by Ramesh Ranganathan. Were you there as well?
No, I just seen All My Sons about 2 weeks before that.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But Breaking Bad for me was so clever. So clever. In fact, we ended up listing Vince Gilligan, who was the producer director, on our books because of what he did so cleverly. What he did is he took somebody and made us like him. Then he gave him cancer and he was at a death sentence, and we still liked him. And then he thought, well, let's make him do something a little bit naughty, and let's see if the audience is still with him, and we're still with him. Then, actually, very early by series 2, let's have him kill someone. And are we still with him? And so we're actually following somebody turning into a psychopath.
Yes.
And we're still rooting for him, which is scary, right?
And very, very politic of now as well, about how evil pervades. Also, yes, I completely concur. It's got the most perfect story arc I've ever experienced. And I left a card. I was sort of punching above my weight. I left a card for Bryan Cranston after seeing the show trying to get him to see if he'd be on the show. In a universe of who knows, he could say yes further down the line. And I love the fact that you know and have met Vince Gilligan as well.
I didn't get to meet Vince, I must say, sadly. I didn't get to meet him, no.
And Better Call Saul, the sort of spin-off, was brilliant too. Anyway, sorry.
Can I give you a second one as well? Because that one, Breaking Bad, is a whole series, a whole story. It's lot, whereas this one is actually individuals you can watch a single episode. And it's an old one, 2009, Lie to Me, starring Tim Roth. Have you seen that?
No.
He's a human lie detector. And what I love is you're actually watching and you're learning how to detect when someone's lying. I'm going to whisper, I can now tell when my husband's lying.
Fantastic.
I've been watching, that's really useful. And I'll sort of like grin at him and said, okay, you did take the rubbish out. Okay.
If that's what you think. Yeah, love that. So you're doing a bit of people whispering. So
yeah, it's very useful for that.
And also dogs are brilliant to be people whisperers, because a lot of people judge whether somebody deserves to be likable based on what their dogs think quite often.
Yeah.
When your dog just suddenly starts growling at someone, you think, hang on a minute, they've seen something I haven't.
Yes. Yeah. My little dog adores our estate agent. Oh my God. She absolutely loves him.
That could be a good way to sell your house, getting your dog to hump the estate agent's leg.
She doesn't do that. She just squeals as soon as she sees him and runs around in circles. It's quite sweet.
And also dogs are brilliant at being in the clock of now. The idea of presence, when you talk about presence on stage, how dogs are brilliant because they're in the clock of now.
Yeah.
All good stuff.
Yeah.
Wonderful inspirations. And now, hopefully you'll enjoy this. This is the two squirrels, borrowed from the film Up. When the dog goes, oh, squirrels, what are your two monsters of distraction, sometimes called your shiny object syndrome? What two things never fail to stop you, Maria Franzoni, in your tracks, irrespective of anything else that's going on for you?
People who know me know this. I love a gadget, whether it's a physical gadget or a tech gadget or piece of software, something that helps me do something better. My house is full of gadgets. I've got all sorts of software, all sorts of AI. I'm always playing with things. And if I'm scrolling on Facebook or LinkedIn and somebody's promoting a new app that does something, I'm there. Everything's stopped. I've got to try this app. Oh, it's terrible.
And what's the gadget of the moment, please? I've never asked that question before.
The gadget of the moment, well, the one that I've been trying at the moment, which is quite useful actually, it's called Whisper Flow, and it allows you to talk on any app, whether it's on your phone or on your computer, and you just talk and it will type, but it will also do all of the spacing. It will do all of the correction of any spelling. If you say something wrong, it will correct that as it goes. And it's like saving me so much time. It's ridiculous.
What a great top-tastic tip.
I know. I love top-tastic tips.
And as an act of reciprocity, have you heard, and I wish they were sponsoring me, but they're not, but have you heard of Applaud, so Plaud, Applaud AI?
I've got it. I had it when it first came out.
Of course you did, because you like your gadgets. No, that's changed my life, but thank you for the Whisper Flow. I'm going to go check that monkey out. Love that.
I did tell you I was gadget queen, right? So, I've got Plaud. Of course I have.
Maria Franzoni, the gadget queen. We love that. So that's a great squirrel. Thank you. And a second squirrel?
Second squirrel is a good business book. Oh my God, I love business books. So one of my team, when I had my speaker bureau, said to me, "Oh, what books are you taking on holiday?" And I'd have 3 business books. And she says, "Aren't you taking a novel or a story?" And I said, "No." And I devour business books. I now actually listen to audiobooks as well, which I've only recently got into because we've been driving up and down looking at houses. So I'm listening to audiobooks. But I've got so many books, and when they are good, I can't let go of them. I have to keep them. You would not believe, I've got thousands of books, and I've got a pile of those that I need to read. I've got a pile of those that are my favorites, and my favorites, I know they're favorites because they've got pages turned down. I've written in them. I've highlighted pieces. Love a business book.
And what's your business book of the moment, please?
Well, actually, in the back of my book, I listed 10 that I absolutely love. So I can choose one from there. And the one because we're talking about speakers, the one I always recommend and is always of the moment, and I don't think it's going to be very difficult to beat it. I love The Referable Speaker by Andrew Davis and Michael Port, especially for somebody who's doing that journey where they want to go from starting out, becoming an expert, and then becoming that visionary, highly paid speaker. That the journey is just a brilliant book. It's the book I wish I could have written, but was not capable of doing.
Say the title of that book again.
The Referable Speaker.
And is that Andrew Davis of TV writing infamy or fame?
He's Andrew. Yes, he has got TV background, actually, marketing. Yeah. So Andrew Davis, American though. You thinking that? But he has got some TV background. So, but he's a marketing man, really.
And what a great credit. That's the book I wish I read, or wrote rather, because you've read it, but then you've now written the Bookability Formula yourself.
Which is completely different. But I did send a copy to Andrew.
I hope he said thank you, and he's recommending yours on a podcast somewhere else in the world as we speak. Wonderful, squirrels. And now the one is a quirky or unusual fact about you, Maria Franzoni, we couldn't possibly know about you until you tell us.
Okay, I don't know how many people can say this, but I have actually been blessed by a saint.
Oh,
yes.
Tell us more, please.
Yes, you're thinking she's gone mad. I haven't. I was blessed by John Paul II. I had sort of like a special audience with him because I was working with the Vatican at the time. Not me on my own. There were about 75 of us, but he went round and blessed us all. In Italy, when you're a child, you're given a necklace with your saint on it. So I took that with me, and I had it in my hands, and he blessed that. And when he died, he was canonized. He was made a saint. So I've been blessed by a saint.
In all my circuit episodes, that's the most extraordinary, quirky, or unusual fact. You'll be delighted to know that be yourself, because everyone else has taken. No one else yet has been blessed by a saint. Great answer. We have shaken your tree, Maria Franzoni. Now we stay in the clearing, move away from the tree. Next, we talk about alchemy and gold. When you are at purpose and in flow, what are you absolutely happiest doing in what you're here to reveal to the world?
I'm at my happiest, honestly, when I am working one-to-one with a speaker on Zoom. I prefer it on Zoom because I like to have a recording, and also because otherwise we'd end up never finishing if we were in person, I think. I absolutely love it. I do find it, because I'm in flow, and often I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting, because I'm trying to come up with, what's the positioning going to be? How do you promote yourself? Who you're going to? So I'm doing a lot of the thinking. So by the end of it, I'm completely drained. But while I'm in it, I love it. And the part that I love the best is when someone comes back, even after a consultation. Sometimes they'll come back and say, wow, I can't believe how clear I am now, and how much more confident. Because a lot of it, I think a lot of speakers don't need somebody else who's been on the other side to give them the confidence and clarity to say, actually, what you're doing is really great. I had a call before this morning with a speaker, and she was telling me about her background and the things she was talking about. And I said to her, she said something, and I said, that's what you should be talking about. And she stopped in her tracks, and she said, I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure.
Wow. Yes.
And she said, right, I now know which direction to go in, because most people have too many topics and too much experience in many ways, and they need to narrow it down. And I said, that's the one that's commercial. That's the one that's going to get you paid.
And I totally understand where that's come from. That's 25 plus years of super objective perspective to then go, bosh, that's the thing you need to be speaking about.
Listen, when you're an agent and you're a bureau, you only get paid when someone's booked. You get paid on commission. So people, you want people who are really commercially relevant and who are like really easy to sell. And I think, I don't know who said it, that, sometimes we're sitting in the jar and we're trying to read the label from the inside. It might have been Grant Baldwin who said it. And I think that's what happens with speakers, is that they're in the jar of their experience and expertise, but they can't look from the outside to say, actually, what is it that it should say on that label?
That's so resonant, because during the pandemic, I was on a bike ride, and that's when I was attributed the title by a friend I bumped into, who called me a motivational comedian, because his son said, who was that? As they were pissed off because they were supposed to be on a bike ride. And he went, oh, that's Chris Grimes. And then I was still in earshot. What does he do? Oh, what is he? He's a motivational comedian. And then off they squeaked. But I had no idea. I wouldn't have come up with that myself. That was a sort of super objective and helpful way of just saying, well, that's something different.
But yeah, brilliant. And it's a great title.
Wonderful insight so far. Now we're on to awarding you with a piece of cake. Well, no, not a piece of cake. You can have a whole cake. So do you like cake, Maria Franzoni, first of all?
I love cake. Can I have 2 cakes, please?
Very greedy, but yes, you can.
I'd like a Black Forest Gatto and a lemon drizzle.
I love that with a cheeky chappy chaser. I love this. One's got cream and nom 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 and dark. And do you know what? That's a perfect combo.
I think on the same plate.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yes. And presumably furnished and shown up to you straight after your bath, because you're going to live the dream now. That's great. Okay, so you're going to get to put a cherry on your 2 cakes greedy thing now. And this is where the cherry on the cake is, what's a favorite inspirational quote, first of all, that's always given you succor and pulled you towards your future?
Oh, my goodness. My favorite quote actually is from Philip Hesketh, who people probably won't necessarily know. He's a persuasion and influence expert. And I quote him a lot, actually. He says, do what you say you're going to do. And it was actually a piece of advice he gave me. So I'm sort of answering. I know you've got another question where you're saying, what's the best piece of advice? It was actually probably also my best piece of advice. When I went into starting my own business from the bureau, and I decided to run my own bureau, and I'd been working with Philip, and I said to him, you've been really successful. What advice would you give me as somebody starting a new venture? And he said, do what you say you're going to do, because so many people don't. Yes. And it differentiates you. And I see it all the time. Someone will say, I'll come back to you on Monday with that information, and then they don't. Or let me you make sure that I get that arranged for you, and then they don't. So either don't say anything or do what you say you're going to do. That's my favorite quote and my best bit of advice. So I'm sort of cheating a bit and answering 2 questions there.
Thank you for that clarity. And I love the fact that they are both one and the same. That's fantastic. With the gift of hindsight, what notes, help or advice might you proffer to a younger version of Maria Franzoni? And you can decide how old you are as you return to your own past, wrap your own arms around your shoulder and whisper some sage-like whisperings in your own ear.
I don't think I'd probably listen to myself, unfortunately, because I thought I knew it all. This is in my early 20s. I thought I knew it all. So I would say to myself, really define what it is that you want. Because I didn't. It was very vague. I had a very vague definition of what I wanted, and ended up in many situations that I didn't want, and had to sort of, things, relationships that weren't great, or scenarios that weren't right for me. I certainly, although my husband, who sadly is my first husband, sadly no longer with us, wonderful, wonderful man, I was too young. I didn't know myself. So I think it's, be really clear on what it is that you want. And before you make that decision, know yourself so that you know what you want. Because I made a lot of decisions when I was too young, thinking I knew it all, and I knew nothing. My mother kept telling me this, but I wasn't listening to her either.
There is that parenting stereotype. Please leave home now whilst you still know everything.
Yeah.
It's stereotype. Yeah. So to thine own self be true. And I love that advice. Very sage to yourself, even though, as you say, you probably wouldn't have listened, but you know now. And we're gradually now working up to talk about Shakespeare in a moment. But just before we get there, this is something called pass the golden baton moment, please. Now you've experienced this from within, who might you like to pass the golden baton along to in order to keep the golden thread of the storytelling going?
I'd love to pass the golden baton on to Mary Tilson-Wharton, who actually helped me in the beginning to create the Bookability Formula. She was, in fact, one of my clients. I met her very early on, I think in the late 1990s when I'd started in the industry. And she was a client of mine. She booked speakers with me, and we just clicked. And we always said we want to do something together. When I had my bureau, I brought her in to work with my speakers because she'd been on the other side to work with them. She's very good on the content side. And now with the bureau work here, she works with speakers on creating the speech, crafting it with that corporate knowledge of scoping and getting it right. She's a fascinating woman because she used to be a private investigator. And she's 6'2" and used to wear like one of those pink lycra suits, running around, hiding behind trees, following people. So she's got some crazy stories, which I'd love to hear.
Very hiding in plain sight. If you've got a bright pink suit and trying to hide behind trees, that sounds like a really...
usually had a dog with her, so people didn't think, people, when you're going around with a dog, nobody really looks at you, she said. It was a great way to hide. Apparently.
Hiding in plain sight in a bright pink jumpsuit.
With a Labrador. Or a retriever, I think it was.
And did you say it had a Walton on the end as well? Maria Tilson Walton.
Mary Tilson Wharton.
Wharton.
Yeah.
And I know that she's part of your 5-point plan, I noticed, in working up the research about you, in developing your speech, as you said.
Yes.
Okay, inspired by Shakespeare, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. This is, again, because of my acting background. When all is said and done, Maria Franzoni, how would you most like to be remembered?
Okay, I'm being a bit controversial here. I'm not particularly worried about being remembered, because I'm not going to be here to know that I've been remembered. So I'm not, I think I would have had children had I wanted to be remembered. So it's not something that I've ever really thought about. I would rather make an impact while I'm here. Maybe it's the Leo thing, that I want to know that I've had an effect. I want people to say, thank you so much. I want to hear it. So I want to do it now while I'm here, and I want people to tell me now if I've helped them. So and when I realized that, actually, again, it was the speaker, and we were working together, and he contacted me and he said, I just want to say to you that you and your team have helped me pay off my mortgage very early on, right? And he was quite young. And I suddenly thought, my God, we're changing lives. We're not just booking speakers. We're actually allowing people to have a great lifestyle. Yeah. So if I can help people have a better lifestyle, I'd love to know about it now, but I suppose that would be my legacy if I'm being less.
It's a living legacy.
I want a living legacy, yes.
In pursuance of, do you want to get booked more often? Do you want to get booked for higher fees? Yes. And then get in touch with Maria.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant moment now to overtly show your book to the screen. So just tell us the story behind the story of the Bookability Formula, who it's for and how it can help.
Oh, the story behind the story. So I was reading a business book, because it's one of my shiny objects, one of the things I love. And the book is the book called 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch. And that is how you pronounce it, by the way. I asked him, he said it rhymes with posh and dosh. I said, great, I'll remember that. I'll never forget that. And what he was saying, which I'd never thought about, but he said that the 80-20 principle is fractal. So you can apply 80-20 to 80-20. And I thought, well, if you do that, you end up with 64-4. If you do it again, you end up with 16-1. And I thought, sorry, 51-1. Maths. And I'm good at maths. And I thought, I wonder if 1% of actions actually do give you more than 50% of the outcome. And I sort of thought, well, let me look at my speakers in my bureau and let me see how many of those brought in the business.
Yeah.
Thinking it's going to be 20% bringing in 80%. When I actually looked at the numbers, and I looked at the numbers for London Speaker Bureau, which is like one of the biggest bureaus on the planet, because I had a business relationship with them at the time, I found that 1% of the speakers were bringing in 80% of the bookings and over 50% of the revenue, which is like, whoa. Which is where the subtitle comes from, by the way, what the 1% most book speakers do.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to understand why. Was it that they were the most famous? Was it that they were the celebrities? Was it that they were the most expensive because they were bringing in over 50? And it wasn't. What happened was they were actually in the $5,000 to $20,000 price point, which is immensely achievable for anybody. And they were names you would not have heard of unless you were in the industry.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't know who they were. So Mary and I started looking at what was it that these individuals had in common. So it was 45 speakers, just to give you some perspective, being booked globally by the 25 offices around the world of London Speaker Bureau, again and again and again, out of 4,489 on the roster. And we discovered they had 4 main key areas they excelled in. And then what I did is I took those 4 key areas and I then turned it into a formula, because there were aspects that would affect those areas both positively and negatively.
Yeah.
did you want me to quickly run you through?
Yeah, absolutely. So hence the bookability formula, which is 4 pillars.
Yeah. So the four key areas that they excelled in were, one, that they were relevant to a current paying market. Really important, because you're not going to get booked and paid if you're not, right? So they were dealing with a pressing problem. The second, that's R. Second, K, they were known for one thing, one topic, right? If you think of Simon Sinek, start with Y. It's that level of relatability and recognition, and by the right people. So they were known in the industry. You didn't need to be known outside of the industry necessarily, although Simon is, of course. Then you're memorable, so that the speech is memorable to the audience, that they can repeat some of the content, but memorable to the booker because of how you work with them and the outcome you deliver. And then E, which is the one that most people don't think about, is easy. Easy to find, first of all, easy to book and work with, and then easy to listen to, because not everybody is, right?
I like that you whispered that. Not everybody is.
Not everybody is. So those are the 4 keys, and then the formula, we add those up, put them in brackets, and then what we have is those 4 keys are to the power of V. In the book, I say multiplied by, because I don't want to lose too many people. I've already got algebra in there, but it's to the power of V. V being value. That's your return on investment, your return on time, your return on objective. That the value you deliver multiplies it dramatically.
Yes.
And then all of it is underlined by a little E that every speaker needs to get onto stage. But if that gets too big, you're in trouble. And that little E is ego. So that's the bookability formula.
And what does it spell, the acronym, if I'm being thick there? Sorry.
It doesn't spell anything. I didn't try to make it spell anything. I wanted it to be a formula.
Algebraic, and it's brilliant. Fantastic. And that's a wonderful segue now into this lovely section, which is called Show Us Your QR Code, Please. So I think we should go chuntering in straight away to, this is where, if you're watching, you can scan the QR code now. So where can we go, if you're just listening and not watching, Maria, to buy your book and get a signed copy even as well? So where do we go and get it?
Well, you've got the QR code, but of course you can buy Amazon in any country, I believe. And if you can't get it on Amazon in your country, let me know and I'll send you one. If you want a signed copy, do go to my website, which is mariafranzoni.me, and I will send you a signed copy.
So just to reincorporate, mariafranzoni.me, and the book, as we now know, obviously, is called The Bookability Formula. And just explain what's in the bubble again. It's the 1% element.
So the subtitle is What the 1% Most Book Speakers Do, and You Can Too. I'm a poet.
Booby do. Love that. If you'd like to connect with Maria on LinkedIn, this is the second QR code. So when we go and find you on LinkedIn, what can we find out about you else, Maria?
Well, you can find out about all my services on LinkedIn, also on my website, of course. But I like to have a chat on LinkedIn. So if I've done a post about something, please do have a chat with me in the comments. I love that. And I do tend to sort of share some very recent stories, because I feel I get inspired by the speakers that I'm working with. I don't always reveal who they are, of course.
Of course. So that's how to connect with Maria Franzoni on LinkedIn. I'm going to come back to you in just a moment. Just a couple of announcements. If you have enjoyed listening to the show, if you want to have a conversation about guesting too, the website for my show is thegoodlistening2show.com. Very excitingly, the show also syndicates to UK Health Radio, Brushwood Media, and just in the last month to iHeartRadio. So the idea is that there are tens of millions of potential listeners listening to you as you tell your story here in the clearing. Very, very excitingly, also, there are a number of different series strands. Today has been a hybrid of founder stories and also good books. But very excitingly also, and a bit more existentially deliberately, there's a series strand using exactly the same curated structure that Maria and I have been exploring together, which is called Legacy Life Reflections, with its own website.com. But it's a series strand to tell life stories for posterity, lest we forget before it's too late. So back to you, Maria Franzoni, author of The Bookability Formula, speaker advocate. As this has been your moment in the sunshine in the Good Listening To Show, Stories of Distinction and Genius, is there anything else you'd like to say, Maria?
Well, what a really interesting experience has been, Chris. This has been a very, very unique podcast. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like this. Thank you very much.
I'm delighted to hear it. And of course, all the syndication is the idea that this isn't just another podcast. This is now a storytelling platform that can help you grow as you amplify and tell your story. And we can find out, very importantly, where to buy the Bookability formula has been the whole point. So thank you very much indeed for listening. I've been Chris Grimes. This has been Maria. I want you to leave with the last words, Maria. So is there anything else you'd like to say, just to check we've wrung out the sponge and you've said everything you wanted to say?
I think, no, all I'm going to say is I'm going to get the dogs ready. We're going to go for a walk. We're going to go to my clearing.
Boom. Have a wonderful rest of day, and I'll be in touch, if I may, a little bit further down the path to talk to you about the human advantage in the AI world, which is acting intelligence, where I'm crafting a talk about the advent of AI and how we cope with this sort of tsunami of overwhelm. We have discovered that you like Whisperflow and I like Claude AI. There's many, many, many brilliant good things about AI, but it's also potentially overwhelming as well.
Absolutely.
So yes, wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.